welcome to Let's Talk. I'm Sandy Blanchette, your host, and for this episode we're going to a location site here in Avon, New Destiny Fashions, right in the square. And the event here today is a book signing. Left Me is just been released, and we're very happy to be able to talk to her now about the book and how it came about and the impact it's had on her life and others. So welcome, Lovern. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, Sandy. Good to see you, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, so great. Well, tell us a little bit how your whole project got started.
Yeah, and so this book is the baby birth from my experiences as a two-time survivor of domestic violence. And so it talks about, as you mentioned, the legacy he left me, my experiences as a child witness to this issue growing up in Trinidad up until I was 15, and then subsequently becoming an adult survivor of a 2-year relationship that started when I was 21 as a young adult. And so, you know, not only does it describe what happened to me in those both instances, but also what it meant to leave that type of relationship, but then go on to thrive, not just survive, but thrive after. 10 years later, then forming the foundation that I run, and this year it's going to be 10 years, and Love Life Now Foundation, and sort of showing folks, you know, that what happened to you isn't necessarily what is destined for you.
What defines you.
What defines you, and there's life after abuse, and that can be really beautiful.
Yeah.
And so I'm just really, really insanely blessed to have been able to now do this project, which is, I consider, a love project, because it really was personal to me,
Right.
obviously, as a domestic violence memoir. To be able to tell that story and show folks what the behind the scenes of this issue really looks like. So again, incredibly grateful that I got the opportunity to do it.
So you're saying that the Love Life Foundation is 10 years old. So what prompted you now at this point to go ahead and write your experiences?
Right, yes, 10 years old. And so over the years, Sandy, many people have heard bits and pieces of my story, and many of them had said, you should write a book. And I just put it to the wayside because I was so focused on doing the work of Love Life Now, right? And building the initiatives that we were putting out so that people could be aware, because that's what a lot of what we're focused on is raising awareness around this issue and speaking about it, making the conversation comfortable. And so last year the pandemic hit and everybody was quarantined. And while work had really picked up for us at the foundation, because we no longer had any limitations on where we could speak, right, and hold workshops about this issue. We went as far as Saudi Arabia, down in the Caribbean, the Bahamas and Bermuda, Trinidad, Jamaica.
By all online, you mean?
All online, virtual, right, because we had no borders, right?
Right.
And, you know, during that time, again, people said you should write a book. And so the opportunity to be able to write it came very fluid. A friend of mine from a former industry that I still dabble in, banking and finance, had reached out to me and said that he and his wife were starting a publishing company. He had seen some of the clips that I posted on LinkedIn of our workshops over the years, and he really had been paying attention, I guess.
Well, isn't that nice?
You know, he in Arizona, me here, and he said, you know, we really would love for you to have a conversation with us about what a potential story, because we really think your story would fit with our brand. And I had the conversation, and the chemistry was there, and the rest is history. I was published. I started writing in October, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and finished in January.
Wow, that's record time.
It was very fast, but I think in part because these details were so innate to me. I had been sharing about them for many years, and now it was just time to spill it out on paper. And that came, again, very fluid. And so, you know, finishing in January, I flew down to Arizona to shoot the cover, and then came back, and in March they started the printing process, and June 1st the book was released.
Wow, that's great.
It's been quite surreal.
Yes.
And so now we're currently on a book tour, and I am so thankful to Rochelle of New Destiny Fashions for inviting us to Avon.
Yes.
This is where we're based, and
That's
so
right.
it's good to be home talking
right.
about the book.
That's great. So how do you feel now that you've been able to get your experiences out on paper and out for the world to see?
Yeah, so, you know, a lot of the feedback that I'm getting now from folks that have read the book is that, Lovern, you're so brave to have shared that part of you. because it was a lot.
Yeah.
And so I will tell you that even during the writing process, that was hard. The glamour of it all is now, but during the writing process, it really, it took me there, Sandy.
Yeah, it was painful. Did it make you relive some of those experiences?
It absolutely did. And I thought, I don't think I was ready for what was to come with the writing process. I thought I'd go in, I'd write this down. I've shared it so many times. I can talk about my story without crying most of the time now. So it should be the same in writing. And that was certainly not the case. I think in the very first chapter, I had to take a step back at least 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, well, it becomes so permanent once it's in print.
Once it's in print.
Or
and so,
on paper, yeah.
On paper. And not only that, writing a book, you want to make sure with a project like this that facts are accurate.
Yes.
So that meant going back and talking to my mom, who this is part of her story.
Yeah.
Right? I can't tell being a child witness part of my story without talking about what happened to her. And so talking to my mom about certain instances and getting the facts straight there, talking to my sister, my brother, and for many years we never really talked about this issue as a family. We've never dealt with it as a family. So having to go back and hear in firsthand detail some of the things I might have already known, but really getting the details fleshed out really affected me. And so by November, it had affected me so much that it started permeating into my daily life. So I realized, that there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of sadness, there was happiness, there was more anger, there was more sadness. And so there was this roller coaster of emotions that I was going through, and it started to sort of show up in my daily life. And I said, okay, Lovern, there's no way that you can do this by yourself. You cannot handle this on your own. And that's when I started seeking a therapist. And so, I shopped around because I realized that is also a process that you can't kind of take lightly. It isn't like coming and buying a dress. Well, maybe it is kind of like buying a dress, right?
You have to try on a few.
You have to try on a few. And so I had some really great consultations, but there was one woman that really, rubbed me the right way. And thank God for telehealth, because she's in Vermont. I got to see her online. And to this day, I still have her. I'm still seeing her, not necessarily because there are issues that I'm addressing pertaining to the book, but there's just a
general
sounding board, right? Just once a week, every Wednesday, I get to, self-care, and just, talk about anything. That's anything.
Well, that's a great relationship to have been able to make over the pandemic. We did find some positive things out of it.
Absolutely, and that definitely is one of them. And so now I am a huge proponent for mental health, because we all have stuff.
Right.
It does not have to be domestic violence related trauma. I think we're going through things every single day that we each can sort of use a sounding board, a non-judgmental sounding board, to be able to address. So that I think was one of the biggest things that came out of this process for me. And so, like I said, I finished writing it, and it was a huge, I don't even want to call it relief, but I was excited about being done, because now I could put that piece aside and focus on
going forward with other projects.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like the project was really cathartic for you, but that you also brought in your family members. How did they feel about it? And were they thankful for you to help address some of it? Or?
It was hard. I'm not going to lie. It was hard. The things that I was addressing, they're not happy things, right? And I certainly can't tell their story in full, but there were parts that I saw, and this the story comes from my perspective, and so I had to involve them to make sure that I was putting across that accurately. And so it was hard. And I don't think, and that's one of the things that I sort of mapped out with the therapist very early on, is that this trauma is, I know for me, and I know for them now, having, addressed it with them a little, is that trauma is never going to go away per se. But we find ways and mechanisms to deal with it when it rears its ugly head. And that's another big part of what this process has brought for me, is being able to know how to navigate the experience. Yeah.
Great. So, well, now that your book is out and other people have been able to read it outside your family, what's been the feedback that you've been receiving from folks?
Goodness. I mean, first of all, it's been so many. And I'm so grateful because I was explaining to Rochelle earlier of New Destiny Fashions that, when I went down to, first, we had the book out on pre-order from, I think it was middle of March. And so when I went down for the launch of the book at the beginning of June, we had about over 300 to 400 pre-orders.
Wow.
And seeing the names from the people that had ordered across the country, so not just Massachusetts, it was as far as Canada and Alaska, and seeing those names of people that I'd known over the years or been in contact with, it just meant the world to me. But then when they finally got the book that, following week or the weeks come after, to hear that, some of them hadn't read a book in years and they couldn't put it down. Some of them reading the book within a day because they couldn't put it down. I mean, that kind of feedback was like, it was mind-blowing. And I don't think it really set in until the second leg of the book tour in Minnesota. When I came back from that, it was like, wait a minute, this is really happening. Like, I'm getting calls even while I'm in Minnesota and Arizona for, hearing from people that, again, the book, really peeled back some layers for them. And part of the book tour is, book signings, right? And, there was a company that asked me to speak to their staff just before one of them. And that was mind-blowing for me because once I was done speaking and then everybody was coming in to sign their book one by one, at least 70% of the staff were saying me too. Some of them disclosing that they had gone through this issue for the very first time, right then and there. And it was that, I think, to me, there's one picture that sort of represents that particular event where a young girl came up to me and she had disclosed and she burst into tears. And this picture captured us, very nonchalant, me holding her shoulder and her holding her face because the tears were streaming down. And that was the gist of the tour because even in that particular event, my shoulder was damp from people hugging and crying on it. And that, I think that's when it really hit me that it's not just a book. It's not this story is having an impact on people in a way that I could have never expected. And for it to be an extension of the work that we do through Love Life Now on the awareness front. So even after I speak at any event, at any signing, at any workshop, this book stays with folks to be it's not just me spilling about what happened to me, but I really sort of I tried to structure it in a way that it serves as a guide for folks, even if you've never experienced this issue, so that they could be, again, in the know about what it looks like behind the scenes. So again,
it sounds like a perfect extension to your foundation and a real benefit for folks that you meet with, that they can actually walk away with something. So it's great, and it's fabulous that you've done that, and it's so exciting, and I'm so happy for you.
Oh man, I appreciate you big time.
So thank you so much for sharing that with us, and I look forward to reading your book, and hopefully you get a lot of folks in here today to
so
sign
this is the calm before the storm, I guess.
And so I'm glad that you can continue that along with your Love Life Now Foundation, and it's great. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Sandy.
Great
I
to have
appreciate you.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you. We'll be continuing some of our coverage from New Destiny Fashions here in Avon as the book signing goes on. Thank you all. Now, how are you today?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
Good. Great, thanks. So glad you could come for the book signing today. So what made you come out for the book signing?
So I've been a long-time supporter of Lovern and her amazing work with Love Life Now. And it was great to be able to see this amazing project come to fruition, which I am really happy to support.
Good. Well, it's great to see that too. Have you seen that the book has had any impact on you, or what's your reaction to it?
Yeah, I would say it's part of a long-term journey for Lovern and the work that she's been doing. really being able to bring this amazing platform to life for so many different people. So for me, it's been a great part of being able to share this story with other folks. So this book is a really amazing tool to be able to share Lovern's story, to let other people know that they're not alone, but also to teach us all the role that we can play in to be able to fight domestic violence.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for coming today, and it's great to see you. And thanks for your support.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm here at New Destiny Fashions in Avon with the proprietor, Rochelle
Wilson.
Goggins. Hi, Rochelle. It's so nice to meet you. Tell us a little bit about your shop and how you started here in Avon.
Well, I took a leap of faith. I left my corporate job in November of 2017. My mom and myself, and so we took what was a side hustle and opened up New Destiny Fashions, offering apparel and accessories for women and a little something for the men as well.
That's right. Good.
But mostly the women, of course.
Okay. Good. So what made you think to open up your shop for Lovern's book signing?
Lovern, oh my goodness, what a blessing meeting Lovern. Lovern and I met maybe several months ago. She saw one of my videos on social media. She came in one day, and I'm just thankful to God for the opportunity to be a part of her fashion show for Love Life Now Foundation.
Right.
And so she is a resident of Avon, so it just made perfect sense. She's doing the book signing in Boston, and she had one in Arizona, and so I'm just very proud. I wanted to support anything that she does. She's stuck with me. She's really stuck with me now. So it just made perfect sense for her to do a book signing right here in the town where she lives.
Yeah, I think that's great, and I'm really glad that we can highlight two Avon success stories, yours here with the business and Lovern's in her book publishing. So thank you so much for opening up your shop, and nice meeting you, and hope folks come and check out New Destiny Fashions in Avon.
Thank you.
This is your Channel 9, Avon Community Access and Media Incorporated at avontv.org.